Previously on Our Curious Georgia.
Mama Park.
We're going to water park! Okay, first impression of this place.
Oh, it's epic. I don't want to leave.
So this must be the wave pool.
Like, this entire place is mind-blowing at every corner.
I'm completely turned around in here. I'm so lost. Did you fall in the water slide?
No.
No, you didn't. Did Daddy fall in the water slide?
Yeah.
Yeah. So to catch you up to speed, we're Sean and Jazz, and this is our little baby Peach, Georgia, and we're from Alberta, Canada. Now that we've been in Vietnam for almost a year, which is so crazy, we thought we would sort of recap what brought us to Vietnam. To make a long story short, in 2016, Sean lost his job in the oil industry. While it was deflating at the time for many reasons, looking back, it was probably the best thing that could have happened to us. I was on mat leave at the time, and Sean and I were hunting for more jobs that would only mean him working out of town. So after months of contemplating and countless questions, honestly, the only question that we couldn't answer in the whole decision-making process was why not? What is one reason that we shouldn't do this? And we just figured that there would never be a better time than right now. We always said once we had kids how excited we would be to travel with them and even possibly move abroad, which seems a bit far-fetched, but to us it seems and always has seemed like a great idea. And so this is exactly what we did. Well, exactly what we're doing. It, by a long shot, was not an easy decision to make, but it has honestly worked out better than we could have ever imagined. So now we're here on a beach in Vietnam, and we've been here for almost a year now, and it honestly seems so crazy. When we left, we were sort of like, let's just go. We had no time frame. Honestly, we were thinking around 6 months when everybody said, how long will you be gone for? We always said probably like 6 months, maybe less, we don't know, and it's just gone a lot longer than that now, and we still have no real plans as to when we're coming home. Now we're just here, and we thought that we'd just do a video because there's a lot of questions that we get sometimes, and not necessarily because we get questions, because these are sort of things that we were contemplating or considering or we're asking ourselves or looking for information for before we left with regards to maybe the pros and cons, or not so much the pros and cons, because like since Sean and I have been talking about doing this video, every time the word con came up or pro, we would say, well, that's not really a con. So we said, let's sort of leave out those words and just talk about what it's like to actually be here with our baby, and I guess sort of like the truth of what it's like. I guess the things that come up were a handful of things that we maybe wished we could have known before we left, or things that we thought would have been different coming here that actually aren't or are very different. Surprisingly, it's not that crazy. It's not that crazy, and it's a lot more simple. It's a lot easier. It's a lot more doable than you think. And when we thought of it, a lot of things we were bringing up to each other, we were like, well, that wouldn't be for everybody, or if you didn't have kids, that wouldn't matter. But we said, let's just talk based on our experience, how we felt having a child, just an overall view of what it's really like living here, I guess. Honestly, if we do use the word cons, I think when we really dug deep and we're really trying to think, what are the cons? Because many people ask us that, believe it or not, aside from what Georgia eats, that's what we hear the most. But the only con about living here is missing your family. It's probably a bigger con for me than Sean, only because he's very used to living away from his family, and I'm very used to living probably within the same square meter of my family. But yeah, that's the only con. But that's sort of a con for many people, no matter what you do. Like, although this has been the longest time I've been away from them, it's I miss him when I don't see them for 2 days at home. I miss them if I go on a holiday. It's very hard, but it's also, I don't know, what do you do? If I was at home, I'd be wondering what it's like to be abroad. Like, I keep in contact with them. It's easy nowadays with Skype and FaceTime. I talk to them almost every day, and their kids, I miss the kids so much, and it's honestly the only real con we could think of living here. There is no other cons. Where are they going? So back to like talking about what some, I mean, family is the hugest con, but there are like a few small things that I don't know, that are not necessarily hindrances, but
just obstacles, maybe hurdles at times, inconveniences.
Yeah, like visas, for example, or travel insurance, or what else?
A lot of people say culture shock is a big thing, and you got to remember, like for us, these things aren't, like we said, they're not cons. Like they're not really that bad. They don't really affect us that much, or we wouldn't be here. Culture shock for me, I get more culture shock going home. When I go back home, it's like, I'm like thrown right out of my element. It's like when I come here, I'm just like, I've forgotten about Canada. I'm in this new place. I love it. When I go home, I'm just like constantly thinking about the things that we miss about where we just were. But in saying that, someone may be coming for the first time, coming to a spot like this, yeah, there is a cultural difference, absolutely. Whether it's language, food, religion, there's many differences, and you have to adjust to that, adapt, just roll with the punches. It's gonna be different. It's not what you're used to at home. Take things with a grain of salt. You could easily let it affect you. I'm not gonna go into them. There's a lot of things that get under our skin, but you just have to take it with stride, or you'd find yourself, you'd drive yourself nuts, right?
Yeah, but
same with at home. There's no difference at home. There's things that drive you nuts at home. So it's just, it's accepting it and going with it.
And if it bothers you that much, then
you shouldn't be here,
and
you know?
It's nothing really. It's just like random. Just their way of life is different than ours, and it's just getting used to that, basically.
100%.
But
whoa!
Did the water come right up?
Did it get you? A little bit?
Are your shorts wet or are they dry? Dry! Why did that scare me so bad?
Did it get you?
Not really, but I mean if it did, who cares?
Visas may be an issue. It's a reality is what it is. We aren't residents, we aren't citizens here, so we have to abide by certain visa regulations, and that again you can look at it as a positive or negative or annoyance. We take it as a positive, and we take a vacation out of it every 3 months. We don't have to do that. We can get longer ones, 6 months or a year. We just choose not to because we don't know our end result. We don't know how long we want to be here. So we kind of give ourselves a 3-month window and go from that. And with that said, you do have to abide by the regulations here as far as visas are concerned, especially if you're working. But it's a lengthy process. It's not just something that happens overnight. There's paperwork that's involved from back home, from here. On both sides, there's a big commitment that's involved with it as well. Someone coming out here would have to think, are they coming here for long term? What kind of visa do they want to get? Can they afford it? Are they going to make a visa run every 3 months? It can be costly. Something to keep in mind, but again, not something that's we look at it as a mini vacation every 3 months. So another one some people talk about maybe is leaving familiarity or comfort, which is kind of a double-edged sword because that can also be a positive. So coming to a place that you don't know can take a lot of time to adjust. You don't have any friends here. Sometimes you may feel alone or kind of alienated from the locals around you because you don't speak the language. You're kind of individualized. There are expat communities here you can get involved with, but it doesn't affect Jazz and I because we have the 3 of us to keep us busy, but for some that might be something to think about. But yeah, leaving familiarity and comfort can be a good thing, and that's how we look at it, is coming out here, trying something new, an adventure, exploring, rather than just maybe doing the same thing all the time. But so with all that said, there's really not any major cons that affect us. Even with Georgia, with health risks, of course you always think about maybe different diseases over in another country, but that's anywhere you go. The hospital facilities are fantastic here. We visited one in Ho Chi Minh, we visited one here in Da Nang, both modern, both up to date. We feel very confident with them. Georgia has been ill a couple times. She's had a couple fevers once when she first arrived after like 3 days, and then maybe 4 or 5 months ago she had a fever for a couple days that kind of put her out for a week. Other than that, she's had a clean bill of health. So those things can be a worry or worrisome for some coming out here, but no different than at home. We worry about diseases and illnesses at home. It's not like it goes away. So yeah, just come to know that it can happen anywhere and you have good facilities to look after you. It's so hard to to have Jazz and I both speak to you guys on the camera at once with Georgia just sitting still. It's next to impossible. So right now Jazz is just out in the water with her. we almost have to take turns. We've tried to do this video a couple times at the house while she naps, and like it just doesn't happen. So we'll pass the camera back and forth, but I think we're gonna move out of here and do the rest of this somewhere else, maybe a little bit quieter.
Okay, we moved spots. We picked up a few stragglers on the way. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so now to list, I guess, pros. I didn't want to use that word, but I can't think of another one. Maybe like the best thing in our opinion about living abroad, or in, not necessarily in Vietnam, but sort of living abroad. What's the best thing? I think just like the adventure. Like, this sounds so cliche and you hear it so many times, but everybody always says like your life should be an adventure, like full of new experiences and yada yada yada. Every meme, every motivational quote is sort of along those lines in some sense, but everybody feels that, and everybody's sense of adventure is a little bit different. But to us, thinking about like being at home and just thinking about doing sort of what we had been doing with Sean working away, and pretty soon my mat leave would be up, and then I would have to start working, and then what? We didn't want to put George in a daycare. Anyway, so all of these things were going through our mind, and we were like, man, what we would really like to do is just like travel. Once that was in our head, we started thinking just why can't we? Like, what holds us back besides it being scary and everybody telling us we're crazy? And we just decided that this is what we were gonna do. We kept telling each other, if adventure and travel is so important, then why not?
Meat.
Oh, look at that. You want the meat? You want the coconut meat, Georgie? Distracted by the balloon. And when we were deciding to come here, you start, as with anything, you give yourself like pep talks and like really talk yourself into it, because it's such a sort of crazy decision. So it was like, what do we love to do? Like, if we were telling somebody or talking to somebody who was like, I really want to travel and move around with my family, but I don't know if it's best, what would we tell people? We would say, yeah, go for it. Like, you can do it. Like, if that's what you want to do, you should do what you love. So we started thinking, well, what do we love? Like, Sean being laid off was the perfect opportunity to sort of, I don't know, go over everything. And we didn't like what we were doing. He was working 2 weeks away and then being 2 weeks home when George was just a little bitty baby. And so obviously I didn't want him to go, but I'm sure he didn't want to leave even more because he had to leave the beach. We started just thinking, if we have a chance right now to do something that we love and we might never have the opportunity to do it again, why can't we? Like, travel is what we love. We want to try and live a life of adventure as much as possible. And now we have an opportunity to show our kid this. Why don't we just go? It's just a trip. Like, we didn't expect to be here this long. And at the end of the day, you come back to the, like, say we went home after 6 months, or say we go home next week, you go home to the exact same sort of situation that you were in before, deciding what you want to do for work. Do you want to buy a house? Do you want to rent? Where do you want to live? It's all still the same. We can do it in a heartbeat if we wanted to. So being here, it's exciting. That was a balloon that popped.
Did it pop?
Pop! Pop! Pop!
Oh. We knew that was gonna happen. Okay, we have a little upset Peach right now.
Babu.
Her Babuba popped. So we have to go back and get her another one now.
Babuba.
Babuba. That's what's left of it, right?
To the balloon fairy tonight.
So two other things that are for us positives, I'd say weather, 100%. Maybe not for you as much. I think this affects Jazz a little bit more. I love the heat. I could have heat or warm weather all year long. I don't need a winter. And you don't have to be 60 and retired to not like the winter anymore in Canada. I just don't. I have no time of day for it. You?
I'm like over. I don't like the cold winters. Like, and how long they are.
I know a lot of people say that they like the 4 seasons, but not in Edmonton. We just don't have. It's like cold for 10 months and then a couple warm months and then it's gone. It's just not long enough.
Living here for a year, it's the longest time I've ever lived abroad. I appreciate so much the 4 seasons. Again, not the super long cold winters, but I love fall, I love spring, I love summer. I just wish summer was longer. But being here, I'm sort of a broken record about this because I love it, but it also makes me rage sometimes. It's just
Like, of course, there's some really, really hot days, and you got to stay inside,
really
and you need your
days.
AC
It's
running.
37 by
and your
10
electricity
a.m.
bills
every day.
jumped up 400% since February. But I would take this any day. I just love the walking out with bare feet and sandals and having a beach near you, and you have the relief of this. You're not stuck in a jungle, in a concrete jungle with the heat. You know, we have the beach outside, we have the mountains.
Eat the balloon.
You know, we do deal with rainy season here, which does suck. I'm not looking forward to rainy season coming up, but it is about a month long or 2 months long, and then it's done. It's not like a winter at home where you have 6 or 7 months of hibernation coming up. So it's obviously no secret that we love travel, we love to see new places. The opportunities to travel here are 10 times what they would be for us at home. Canada does not make it easy to travel, not even within Canada, from province to province.
They don't make it cheap.
Well, they don't make it cheap. I guess not easy, but cheap. It's very, very expensive for the three of us to fly. If I wanted to go, because Jazz and I are from different sides of the country, so if I wanted to fly home to see my family in Canada, the cost of that, we could probably go visit Korea, Japan, China, Thailand, and Cambodia in one round trip. You know, like it just, the opportunities to travel that it gives us living here, being in a city with an international airport, with $50 flights to Hong Kong, with $60 flights to Indonesia, it's cheap. It allows us to pursue that side of things, and that's what we want to do here, and we've been trying to. So that's a huge plus. If you want to travel, you want to explore, you want to see, like being in Europe, if you situate yourself in Europe, you're going to see a lot of bordering countries very easily. Same thing here in Asia, and that's a huge plus.
Yeah, huge plus.
Right? So people say when you move abroad, it's all fun and games. It's, you know, it's like a dream come true, blah, blah, blah. But then there's a honeymoon phase and it kind of fizzles out. And after a while, routine is routine. Whether it's here, at home, you still have the same needs that you have. You have to make a living. You have health concerns that need addressed. You need to eat. For us being here, there's this little flame or little flicker that ignites when you're in another country. It's like you're on senses overload. You're totally alert. Every day there's something new happening. Every day here, it feels like you're on a permanent vacation. You know that feeling you get when you're leaving, you're going to Mexico for a week or whatever you're gonna do, and you get that little giddiness inside you. You get to your destination, you unwind, you unpack, and you're like, we're here.
Yeah.
That doesn't really leave. It might diminish a little bit, you know, after a few months when you get settled and stuff, but it's still there every day when we're here. For me too, you feel it, right?
Yeah, for sure.
You just have these little moments that happen that make you smile, that make you really appreciate where you are, what you're doing. You know, if I'm getting up for work in the morning and I'm taking this one road and I'm looking to the east and I've got the beach to the right of me. I'm looking north and I've got the mountains ahead. And you just kind of come to grips with where you are, and you take it in for a second. And every day I have that moment, whether it's there or lots of little things. Sometimes that doesn't always happen at home. It's very easy to get into, I call it autopilot or whatever, and you just you lose that appreciation. And I don't have that when I'm abroad. Same with you, or not so much?
For sure, for sure. Yeah, your day-to-day is sort of the same, but it has this like I've used the word adventure, which sort of is lame a lot, but it's like you feel like you're pursuing a dream in a way, and also like living the life you want to live, or like working towards something that you actually want to do. It's like self-gratification in a sense, or like you feel accomplished in a way. It's a very like simple life that we live. It's very relaxed.
Yeah, you definitely decelerate here big time. It's
the birds go.
And I think some people might look at that as like a laziness, but to want a simpler life. But I think we really try to complicate things at home, and it doesn't have to be like that. And coming here, it's a slower way of living. It's a slower pace to life, and it gives you time for the things that you love doing, which I guess would be the next point, would be time. I don't know, I could go on for hours about this, and we don't have time to do that. No pun intended. You can't argue that. Like, you can't, there's nothing more precious in life than time. And we've been lucky enough to be able to have more of that. Or at least focus the time that we do have on the things that we want to be doing. Is that a better way to put it? Versus actually have, like, time is still the same whether it's there or here, but it's just we're allowed, we
Yeah.
have more time to do what we want here.
Yeah, and just like more time together overall.
Oh yeah. Are you counting baby coconuts?
There's 10.
We just kind of think of this or look at it like there's only so many years where we are the center of her universe, the center of Georgia's universe, and we want to be able to be as present as possible during that time. Because there's going to be a time when she gets older, she's going to have boyfriends and school and jobs, and we're always going to be her parents, and she's going to love us. But now is, I think some of the most precious times. We've got to soak it in. Everyone tells us that, soak it in now, and we're trying our best.
Yeah, I feel sorry for our second kid.
And a big thing too is, like, we talk about doing what we love, is I think it's super important to not only just teach your kids to do things, but lead by example, is to be able to show Georgia, if we're doing what we love and she sees that, that's so beneficial. There's nothing better than that.
Yeah.
And that's what we want to do with a lot of things.
I guess to sum it up, those are, I guess, whether or not they're pros and cons or you look at them like that, those are sort of the biggest, like, or the most important or the honorable mentions of being here, of what we sort of anticipated it being like, what it's like, or what questions we get.
Go see him. Go say hi, go chase him.
Go get him.
Go get the boy.
If I could go back to decision-making time and being stressed over, should we do this? Like, what if George gets sick? I would tell myself, don't worry, like, everything's fine.
I think some people have very low expectations of what maybe Vietnam is.
Yeah, that's probably the greater problem.
There's so many eyebrows raised when we mentioned the country Vietnam. We came here. I mean, we tend to look through, you know, our mirrors back home at what the rest of the world looks like, and we have a big fear of things. But I hope if in any sense we've given you a little bit of an insight to what Vietnam is really, really like. How beautiful it is, how warm and caring the people are, how modern it is, how much things have changed. Don't judge a country based on 50 years ago what happened. This is a fantastic place with fantastic people. We've had a fantastic year. And if and when the time comes that we do leave, it's going to be a very, very hard time. It's going to be very difficult for us. This isn't like saying goodbye to it or anything, but I just know that when we do, it'll be very difficult. The things that we've been able to accomplish and do here, it's hard to concentrate right now because all I hear is kisses in my ear. But hopefully this is useful to somebody or makes sense. But I think at the end of the day, I've always said about travel, and even with a toddler now, you just have to do it. What do you have to lose? If anything, it'll open your mind up when you go abroad into what the world is really like, that it isn't a big scary place, that it's wonderful out there, and you'll become more of a citizen of the globe than just of your own backyard. Or you end up realizing and appreciating that you love your home country that much more, and you go home with a new light, or you look at your new country with a new vision, I guess. So it's a win-win. So why wouldn't you come out? What do you think, George? Georgia, do you like Vietnam?
No.
Oh, you don't be lying now. You love it.
George, do you like Vietnam?
No.
Why? Georgie,
Okay.
what's your favorite drink?
Coco.
Cocoa. I thought she was gonna say Coke.
Me too.
Like, you have never had one of those. Don't ever lie.
Georgie, what else? What did Daddy drink today?
Coffee.
Coffee. And
No, Daddy hasn't
what
had a
did he
coffee
drink
today.
over there? What's in the cup? What was that? What was in there? What is that?
No, Mia.
Look, Mia. We're looking for Georgie's little Vietnamese best friend.
His mom is my best
Nian.
friend too here.
Yeah, they're a really awesome family. They come for... Actually, we
day.
haven't hung out with them very much for beach dates, but they said they're going to be here around this time.
No, I saw them like 3 times last week.
Oh.
Not the mom though.
Just kidding.
She's been working.
So yeah, with everyone that watches, I know there's many expats that have even lived here or from Vietnam that have moved to maybe Canada, the States. What has been your story, or how did you find it? Can you relate to some of the things we've been saying, whether you did it with kids or not? Has it been easy? Has it been tough? Do you miss your home country?
Just give us the lowdown.
Give us the lowdown. Let us know what you think. We're gonna go now.
Nok Choi night.